Hi, Dave.
Hey there.
It's always nice to see you, and it's great to see you in Toronto.
Yeah.
And a pleasure, as always, to see you speak.
Thank you, Julia.
So I liked your analysis or your comparison of Walmart and Kmart.
Yeah.
And I guess that would make Walmart on your grading scale an A.
Well, I don't think the grading scale applies to them. For two reasons. One is, Walmart's got. I think our users should be very clear that we're talking about the usage of data here, and not about corporate responsibility in general. Even there, I don't think that it works all that well because Walmart is able to use this data, which I think is interesting, but it only uses it within its organization. It's not, or it's not sharing that data with the public so that they can create applications or do analysis and discover things that are interesting and good that could become a public good or benefit society. So it's kind of a very different scale. I'm much more interested in government and how much they're sharing data in a way that supports public benefit. And there, I think we're in the C+ range. We've started to do some stuff, and it's interesting, but there's just so much more we need to be and could be doing.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. In terms of moving up to a B+ or even an A, what are some of the key things that you think need to happen?
So I think the places where I feel like people are starting to get are moving into the A territory, and I'm not are there any jurisdictions there yet? I don't know, but the places that I'm kind of watching the most closely, is the federal level of the U.S. government, the UK government, and then New York. I say New York with an enormous amount of trepidation. I say it because they've outlined an incredible strategy. I feel like I've seen cities outline incredible strategy before and then have no follow through. But I do get the sense there is some senior buy-in. Can they do the execution? I don't know. But they are what I think is interesting about them is they're definitely focused on driving policy aims using open data. And that's exactly where one of the places I think we need to go in order to have huge success.
Okay. And in terms of the grading system, which I just like how you did that. I think everyone can relate to that. Who would be I guess you would rate the U.S. and the UK B+.
Yeah, definitely, probably B+. Definitely they're pushing the boundaries and they're also working hard to try to start creating APIs for a lot of their data sets. That is an important step for turning them into real platforms that people can develop on. Flat files are great, but I think they're harder to do. Have an app that kind of just takes care of itself and runs. So I'm very excited about that development, and just the sheer quantity of what they share, and Canada is not even on the radar in terms of the quantity of data sets being shared. And in the UK especially, the actual spending data down to the 500-pound and sometimes 20,000-pound level in every ministry, incredible, right? So I'm really looking to see us figure out, how are we going to get to that place, and I don't even see a plan to get there yet.
Right. Well, I think the portal, data.gov.ca.
Data.gc.ca.
Yeah, GC. That's a good start. It's interesting to see who's sharing and who's not.
Although it is a great start, but right now the license basically makes all the data unusable. I think there are a lot of hackers who probably don't care and are going to do it just to play an experiment. But from a legitimate, institutionalized business that has lawyers who care about risk, that data, the current license makes the data functionally closed.
That sounds very typical of government.
Well, I don't think it had to be that way. One of the things that I think is frustrating is, the UK has a beautiful license. The open government license they use comes out of a common law system. Why we didn't just copy that license is totally beyond me. It is the simplest solution. It's the most elegant solution because it also means that people who develop apps in Canada can then know that if they import UK data, it's going to work fine in the UK, and the license is all going to work. Same for developers in the UK; their apps are going to work in Canada with no problem. So it's this great way to increase the number of people who can use your applications, which is a huge economic benefit and transparency and citizen engagement benefit. And we don't do it, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully there's going to be some improvements with people like you.
I've definitely, to their credit, the guys at data.gc.ca, they want to listen and they want to engage, and I've I've certainly had a couple conversations with them, and I hope that those types of decisions are going to be made in the near future.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that an important step was the government internally creating their own apps. Have you seen any examples of this?
Well, it's hard when you're not in government to find examples of that. So, at the moment, you've got me a little bit on the spot where I'm struggling to think of one. I did talk about, Washington, D.C. and the way that the municipal IT department there, this is the municipal level, they do create reports using data from the different departments that, my understanding is helps in the operations of those departments. So there's someone who's not really creating an app, but creating analysis. And that is exactly the type of thing that I think needs to be happening. So, Washington, D.C., the city, continues to be, there's a place that would probably get an A. They really are leaders.
That's actually where I'm from, so that's
really
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they've just done so much great work, and the thing is they really have thought this through, not just from an open data perspective, but from an information management perspective, which is what this is really about. So they've wrapped their head around it.
Do you think that it's Washington D.C. because they had a lot of data that people wanted, like crime sort of stuff, or do you think it's a proximity to the White House and Obama and the open government movement?
So this would all be conjecture on my part, but it's definitely not what data people wanted, because they all started off doing their stuff with just internal sharing. It wasn't public driven. So what it was is demand internally. It's like, people wanted to grab data sets from different departments and mash them together to be able to do an interesting analysis. And then it was after that they said, well, we should just be doing it with the public writ large. What drove that? I don't know. I'm sure Vivek Kundra has a video somewhere where he talks about it. I have seen him talk about it briefly, but mostly just kind of says it was the right thing to do.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, and visionary.
Yeah.
Well, any thoughts on Mesh and what you're going to be attending or what you're looking forward to? I know that I know you were here last year. I'm not sure if you've been here the year before.
No, last year was my first year. Okay. This is my second year, and really want to see Michael Geist. Huge fan of Michael Geist.
Yes.
And saw Jesse Brown do his session on how do we make Canada's internet unsuck, I think it was, and which is very justified session. That room was packed as well.
Yes.
So those were really exciting to me. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow with the gamification. I've long been a big believer in kind of activities and processes in games and what they might be able to do to public policy and government service delivery. So I'm really interested in that talk tomorrow.
Yeah, that looks like a good one.
Yeah.
Just one last thing before we wrap this up. For all the viewers of this, what sites, if for someone not well versed in open data or the use or applications, what are some of the sites that you would recommend that you take a look at?
Well, the two probably best sites to get that introduction, probably data.gov in the US and data.gov.uk in the UK. They've really, data.gov's got a whole education part of that site where they're really trying to teach people how to use the site and why this matters and what's going on. So there's some good material there, and the British are doing something similar. Like they're really, the people who really get open data understand that at least in the short term, building community around this stuff is really important, and they've both tackled that head on. But then, I'd also encourage people, go to the open data site in the jurisdiction that's nearest to you. So if you live in Toronto's got a data site, Vancouver's got one, right. Calgary, Edmonton, a lot of cities do now. Or go to the Feds one and take a look through there. There's a fair bit of data, so a lot of noise to signal to find what you want, but start looking. You might discover there's a data set that actually is really interesting to you and might be fun to play with.
And a call to action you mentioned in your talk was to just request the data sets to the government, so they know that this is a demand, since they are demand driven.
Yeah, on data.gc.ca, the government says if there's a data set we have and we want it, and you want it, let us know.
Okay.
And they're using that to go to departments and say there's demand, you should give this to us. So the more people who ask, the more people who agitate, the better off that project's going to be.
Yeah.
And one of the big ones I'm hoping that we're going to get around to is postal code data. It is, I think, deeply problematic that data our public tax dollars go to create is then sold back to us, and at a fairly expensive rate, so that the bigger companies can afford it, but a smaller startup can't. This is like basically. I don't want to get to an analogy. I'll go too long, but this is a deeply problematic result, and you've already paid for the data, so let's start asking for it. And I know that they would love to get the data shared, and so we got to apply pressure on organizations like Canada Post. And the best way to do that is make the demand known.
All right. Well, that's good. That's a good takeaway, I think, for everyone. Do you mind if I post this on Port 25?
Go for it.
All right. Thanks, David.
Right on. Thank you.
Bye.